Hello guys, I'm Max, I'm an English teacher and today I'm going to show you how I learn 100 plus new English words for me in just 60 minutes. I know that being a beginner in English is not an easy feat because you need to learn a lot of words, like tons of words, and they don't stay for long. And the same happened to me, guys. And today we're going to cover a few methods and ways what you can do and how you can remember the words so they stay for long and you stop keeping forgetting them. So for that reason, to show you, I decided to choose 100 words from a famous British TV series, Hornblower, and I'm gonna learn them, like 100 of them, in 1 hour. By doing so, I will tell you what I do and explain why I do it and the result in the end. Step 1. You need to write everything, all the new vocabulary with your bare hands and a pen in your notebook, because writing involves muscles and muscles can help you to remember. Actually, muscle memory sometimes is much better than your, I would say, brain memory or a conventional memory, and it helps me a lot to learn the words. For example, in Chinese it helped me really a lot. For example, if I couldn't remember a character, how to write it because it has a lot of strokes, I had to wave my hand in the air. Yes, I would do like this and try to remember the strokes. The same can work with English. When you write down a word, you remember the letters, the spelling, and your hand moves accordingly. So that's really helpful advice. Do it. Don't be lazy. Write down with your own hands. Once the list is done, for example, you wrote down all of the words you need to learn, you have the kind of the initial variant of the word, for example, keep, then you have, for example, a translation in your language, and you need to separate this list into small sets, for example, by 2, by 3, by 5, or by 10 words. So this set must be like the amount you're ready to learn yourself in one attempt. So it's much easier for your brain to see if you learn not like 100 at once, but in small portions, like by fives. It works really cool for your brains, so you can a little bit outfox them. So for example, you start learning this set of 5 words, you learn them one by one, and you try to write them down on paper many times, write the same word again and again. Then you remember the spelling and pronunciation. You can also, while writing, repeat the word. If you get the spelling right, you can put plus in front of, like with a pencil, for example, you put plus next to the word. It means that it's half done. Then you go one by one, you do 5. Then you close the initial word with a paper, for example, or your hand, and look only at translation. For example, if you have in your mother tongue, you look at this and try to write down again. If you get the spelling right, then you can use a pen to put plus next to it, and then you do the same procedure to all of them. If you cannot get the spelling right, then you put minus with a pen there. And when the whole list is done, you learned everything, you look at only minuses and start from the beginning and learn them again. But this time you learn only minuses. After all the minuses are done and you have pluses everywhere, you can think that you've learned the words, but that's not for long. So now we learned all of the 60 words and we can think that, okay, we learned it, but no, we need to repeat them a few times after that. Not even a few times, like many times after that. So what I do next, then before going to bed, maybe before that, or maybe while lying in a bed relaxing and chilling, you can put out your phone, download an application, any application with words, and then manually again with your hands put them inside this application so you can repeat them before sleeping, or while you're eating, or while you're having a bath, I don't know. So somewhere, or traveling, commuting to work, somewhere you repeat them. And I advise repeating the words after 3 hours you learn them. Then you will see that some words, they already kind of vanished from your memory, and repeating doesn't let your brain to trash it out and dump all of these words very quickly, and that really can help you to make these words last longer. Our memory is built this way, that if we do something for long and if we do it constantly, so that means that brain will remember these words. If we don't use it, so the brain will consider these words as like not needed and dump them. Also, you shouldn't blame yourself that you cannot remember some particular words because it's nature, it's absolutely okay. If you remember everything, it's a disease actually. So if you forget something, that's absolutely normal, but repeating really helps you to get more percentage, like more words from that initial vocabulary you had learned. It really takes hours and hours of repeating when you finally remember them. It takes really long, but if you're gonna make it a routine, just like every time you have time you repeat the words, it will work the best for you. If you really want to know more about this concept, you can read a book which is Make It Stick: The Science of Successful Learning. After repeating these words multiple times, you will eventually see that you still have some words which are pretty hard to remember. That's the place where associations come into play, because associations, they really can help you to remember more. What you can do, there are a few types of them. First, you can separate the word into the roots, kind of, or in two words sometimes. For example, mortgage is like mort, like Voldemort, for example. It's something connected to death. And then gauge, it's something like to engage. Yeah, gauge means something that you like, it's like a vow or something. And death vow means mortgage. Maybe this way you can remember. Or you can think about your own language. Maybe you have something a little bit close, maybe it's a relevant word which can suit to this one as well. For example, in my language I have a lot of words which suit, or sometimes they sound the same like in English, and it's pretty easy to remember. Or I try to visualize them with pictures, like Voldemort, for example. I love Harry Potter, and you need to connect this particular word to a character or a situation somewhere. Also, you can make sometimes a little bit harder associations. For example, with flower, there is a word in English which is serenity. It sounds in my language, it sounds like a flower, and I try to visualize them when I'm sniffing and smelling the flower. I feel calm, peace, and so on. So that's how I remember serenity, for example. Music, for me, it works just fine when I listen to the music. The authors I like, for example, Eminem, let's say, and I learn by heart the song he sings, and I also listen to him. I listen the way he pronounced the words he says, yes, and I try to remember this and repeat after him. Music really helps to bridge this gap between real life reality and the words in your notebook, because they are, without these two things, they are not connected. There's no way they are connected, and music really bridges this gap, and you remember the words much better and quicker. It's a commonly known fact that the word is considered to be learned very well when you know all the aspects of this word. For example, you know the spelling, you know the pronunciation, the sounding of the word, you know the meaning, and which is more important, how it is used in real life. And even more, one more thing you should have is this emotional connection. So you should visualize this word. For example, if you say death or happiness, in your brain there must be something like an anchor, something, a happy moment maybe from your life, which is directly connected to it. In this way, if you have all of these things, maybe emotions even more important than others, then you remember and you know and you use these words much more often, and they last for longer. Step 5. If you live in a family and nobody speaks English around you, actually that's not a big problem. You should give them the words you learn and ask them to challenge you with them. Yeah, so they should ask you the words. They tell you, for example, the translation of the word in your mother tongue, and you have to come up with, or just remember, the word, this particular word in English. And that's really cool when somebody checks you, not yourself, because for yourself sometimes you can cheat a little bit. You can see the first letter of the word, for example, but if you give this list to somebody else, you eliminate all of these tricky things from your studying, and you are clean in front of yourself. Yes, and you really will see the result if you know this word or no. If you don't know, again, put minus and learn it after again and repeat in your app, or just write it down a few more times to remember it correctly. Also, when your parents or your fiance, I don't know, somebody is asking you these questions, asking the words, you can also write them down, so see that you understand the spelling as well. After all of these steps, you need to continue. You need to have this perseverance to keep going because it's a really long process. When you just start learning English, it's pretty hard to get all of these 100 words. You will never do that. You start with like 10 words, for example, in one attempt. Yes, just 10 words for the whole lesson you learn. And that the situation was the same for me. I started from small. First, it was like 10 words, then I learned like 20, then 30, then 40, and slowly, I came up. I remember that once I learned 200 words. Of course, it's super hard to do, and maybe I remembered only probably 100 of them. But anyway, in 1 hour, I learned 200 words very quickly, maybe without really hard checking. I couldn't ask my friends and parents, but anyway, I did it and I passed the test, for example. I checked these strategies on Chinese as well. It works absolutely well. In Chinese, I could remember about, I don't know, about 50 or something like that, 50, 60 Chinese characters in a time. So it works pretty well. Yes, of course, it takes so much time, but really hard work pays off. Please give this video a thumb up and follow for more.